All right, it is September 15th, 2025. We're back looking at this property. We had looked at it before. This is a property out in Louisiana that they're trying to sell for about, well, it's a 100 unit property. 51 units have been renovated. Um, 49 units need a lot of work. Um, and so we went through our initial checklist, and normally the next checklist that I would do would be the market analysis checklist. But in this situation, I was a little more curious about what the market from a sales standpoint looked like, and so I'm going to kind of skip the initial market analysis. We'll come back to it if necessary, but sometimes I'll kind of skip it just if I look at the market and I see that comparable properties are selling for significantly cheaper than the property that we're looking at. It can it's a good way to kind of weed out properties that maybe you shouldn't be wasting your time on because they're asking $100,000 a door and the market is $50,000 a door. And so I pulled some comps on this property, and what I want to do is I want to show those comps, and then yeah, and then we'll do some analysis on it, see what it looks like, and then see if this is something we want to pursue further, or potentially use these comps in our negotiation with the agent and say, hey, we think this is overpriced. I had just started pulling comps, and I started to look at them, and I started thinking, well, based on the amount of rehab that this property needs, maybe we should just look at this analysis first. So I'm gonna pull this up. This is our checklist. All right, so the target property, they want 3.6 million, 100 total units. Where's our square foot? I don't know exactly how many buildings. So you can see here, there's a certain amount of kind of understanding here that like the price per unit at 36,000 a unit is not accurate. And the reason is that 49 of the units need pretty heavy renovation. So in reality, even if we look, and I'll show you this, hang on one second. So they sent us a budget for rehab. And their budget is $1.4 million, $1.5 million. And that's 28 units that need regular rehab, 16 units that need kind of a little heavier, and then 2 units that are full gut rehabs. And also 35 units which are staying at deferred maintenance. So this is their number, 1.491 million. So, one thing that I will do here is I will say, target property, like instead of just looking at the target property, I would say like target property with rehab. And then, the other thing to keep in mind here is that construction costs aren't free. If we're bringing in construction debt, there's going to be some type of debt. So, there's going to be some type of, there's going to be, there's going to be a large amount of interest that gets charged. So, like typically construction loans are going to be like 10, 15%. So let's just, we'll kind of err on the side of caution. We'll assume that we're going to get like, our construction at around like 15%. So that means we need to add like 30% to this number. So if they're saying it's 1491, we need to multiply that by 1.3. In reality, the actual price per door, um, the actual price per door is like closer to $55,000 a door, which may or may not be bad, but and that's probably low a little bit, but at least now we have kind of a rough estimate of like what reality is versus what we're being shown on paper. Um, More likely, it's closer to 60 grand a door by the time we're all said and done, because we're assuming that this number is correct. This could be way off. But we'll assume it's correct for now, and we'll just take a look at the market with kind of a slightly more realistic price per door. Um, so one of the other issues that I ran into while I was doing this was that the market that we're in is pretty small. There's a few deals for sale. And I'm looking at sold comps, for sale comps, not sold comps right now. And the reason is I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. I'm trying to see what's for sale. If I can come in and I can buy something, at the same square footage, same number of units, same condition, and I can get it for $10,000 less a door, then that's something I need to know immediately. If I can just buy that off the shelf from, on the market. So one of the things interesting about the market is there's a few deals down here in the Homa area that kind of were comps. This deal already sold. Interestingly enough, this is the same agent on this deal, and well, I'll show you his name. But I mean, you can find it. Same agent on the deal, and he was selling this. It was for 2.4 million. This was like a motivated seller type of deal. Um, and this was I think it was like 100 units. It's pretty close. 96 units. So that deal was like way less per door. I mean, it was like, the price per square foot was like $26 a square foot. It's the same agent selling. So, that was just one that was pretty interesting that, he had just sold it at a much cheaper price. So there wasn't a lot here. There was this property. We didn't look at any New Orleans stuff. So it was really just, I don't want to compare New Orleans to anything. It's just a completely different market. So I think we looked at this property, this property, this property. We couldn't get anything from the agent in this market. And then, I kind of went up and I started looking around. This property that was over here in Cutoff is a rehab, like it's like a nursing home or something like that. It wasn't really like a true comp. I mean, I guess maybe from a rehab perspective it might be, but really what I started to do was look into Baton Rouge, and I started to pull some properties that were like similar or potentially nicer in Baton Rouge. I felt like it was fair to like come up to this area and just see like, that's another thing is looking at like Baton Rouge or Lafayette and saying like, and I get like, this is like a not even a tertiary market down here. It's like this market down here is like this is like a small town. It just happens to have a lot of people going down there for work because of the port. But if I can pick up something in Lafayette or Baton Rouge for cheaper, then that's probably something we'd want to do. If we can get a better deal there, I mean, maybe not something we want to do, but if I'm getting a better deal in a big town and have more people renting, then maybe picking up a deal that's more expensive down here just doesn't make sense. And that's so I was trying to explain like why would even you're going to see some of these comps are actually in Baton Rouge, and the reason is that I wanted to kind of see like what else was going on. All right, so this is one of the first ones, and the reason I know what's here is because instead of like going through them all and then I had to reach out to some of these brokers because I wanted to get information on these deals if I could, just so we would have an idea of what was going on here. These guys, I don't think these guys got back to me, but I think this one had a decent one. This one is 6950. This is pretty like back of the envelope stuff here. We're not trying to like, yeah, I'm not trying to like say that this property is going to be like, um, I'm not trying to say like, oh, we're going to make a decision based on this. Like, we're really just trying to see what's going on. Like, if it's very easy for us to tell what the pricing is, then it makes a big difference. The other thing we're going to look at is like what they're telling us the cap rates are because sometimes sometimes also like it's not just like price per door or price per square foot. It's that the market is selling at better cap rates than what you're getting you know, from the on a property that you're looking at. So this is a real key distinction here too. Like this is a going in cap rate stated. I should say. But like reality is that we're getting this at a much different price because we're gonna have to do renovations. Now our cap rate will go up, but we need to kind of understand where we're at. You just got to be really realistic with yourself on these things. Let's look at the OM. I think this one they had. Yeah, I think this one. I don't even know if I reached out to these guys because it had it, and I'm just trying to like, I don't trust that agents actually tell you the truth around what's in the financials, but for the purposes of like quick analysis, we just kind of want to like just take what they have and throw it in here, and then we can dig deeper later. So they're saying T3 annualized is at 610. So, and then 2024 is at 480. We can take the mortgage So 6.9%. At 480, at 610, it's going to be closer to a 10 cap. If that's true. Again, we're, a little bit of speculation. Now it is August, so we could certainly try to figure this out. I don't believe. I don't think these guys sent anything. Usually, what I do is I reach out to the agents and I just see what I get. No, I don't have anything on this. Yeah, I don't have anything on this. So they haven't sent me anything. But it's okay. So we'll go with the lower one, but remember if it is at that higher one, then that puts it closer to 10 cap. Which I don't even think that's what they're saying on here. It would make this interesting, very interesting property because if you look at the condition of this property compared to the one that we're looking at, I mean it's like night and day. And it's like this is like probably close to A class for Baton Rouge. I mean I'm sure there's some pretty nice places, but this is a really nice place, at least B class property. Um, yeah, it's got a pool, all this area. If everything looks like this, it's a pretty nice area. Compared to the property that we're looking at, which I think if I mean, we can look it up here, but it's definitely not even, you know, not really the same like class. I mean, this property is bad. I mean, we haven't actually seen it, so who knows? But it's definitely not like as nice as that place. Um, that's kind of the other thing we're looking at is like, can I buy something better at the same price? Because you're showing investors something. It's like if I can get this and it's legitimately around a 10 cap, why would I spend time raising money on something like that? This is also Baton Rouge. This is a 20 unit. We'll look at it. We're just gonna throw everything in here and see what comes out. He said, I don't know if we had anyone's, but so like that's an interesting note there too. Like for the construction costs with with everything, this is coming out to be actually slightly cheaper price per square foot. So even though it's more expensive, and even though it's the same number of units, it has a higher square footage, which potentially also means it's going to have higher. We may end up with making more money just because you're renting at a higher rate on those bigger units. It's just something to keep an eye on. You know, yeah, you're paying slightly higher per unit, but the per square footage cost is exactly the same. One of them I don't have to do any construction on. I'm buying the same amount of square feet, literally the same amount of square feet, or a bigger, more square foot, but for basically the same, for the exact same price. These are critical things to look at. And that's why we do this. And another reason I wanted to look a little bit outside the area just so we could make sure we weren't missing anything. This one, it's coming in slightly higher. It's been on the market for 284 days. So, and that's another thing that I keep an eye on. This one's been on the market for 91 days. This one's been on 284. If I come in with a legitimate offer around, 1.15 million or something like that, yeah, I can get my price pretty close. I don't have to drop it a ton, and I can, and that's the other thing. I can come in and say, well, I want to be priced around $55,000, or what is my price? I can go make those offers. I don't have to do any construction. This is supposed to cost me 55, and I know I can go get that 55 somewhere else. That's a huge, that's just something that has to be very, it's got to be looked at really closely. We're gonna keep going. Let's see what else we got. This is an 8 unit. It's not really a comp, but because of the size. But I thought, just after a quick look at it, units, and it's I'm not gonna go too deep on some of these. It's just about efficiency at this point. They don't have a stated NOI. There's like a flyer. We're gonna keep going. Try to get through as many of these as possible. Now this one, I believe. Yeah, so this is a part of a larger portfolio that has 160 units. So we're gonna pull this, make sure we get all of them. Same guy, same guy. Let's see. I think it's these four properties. So that's 20 units, 60 units, so 80, 31, so that is 111, and then 50, so 161. So I think these are all of the properties. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually like put these in, and I'll call them like Prescott Road portfolio. Even though they're not all on the same road. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all the information off of them. So I'm gonna do like I'm just gonna total everything else. This one's at 2 million plus. So 7.2 million for all of them, and I think we said it was 161. And then let's get the square footages. So $75 a square foot. Price per door is $44,000. So I can buy 161 units for $10,000 a unit less. That has a, you know, this one I saw it and I was like, this is a, I don't know the condition of these units. He doesn't have a ton of photos. Now, what he does have, and we will pull is he's got offering memorandums in here, and I think it might be like and I think he has the financials in here. I may be wrong. All right, let's see. He's got the rent rolls, pro forma financials. So these have some vacancies, at least this one does. So this thing's only like half occupied. But remember, the other property is only half occupied too, because the properties, they need renovation. So, you know, if they're half occupied, but I don't have to renovate anything. So this one's at 28,000. So reality, if the financials are all the same, this is actually doing like 340 a year. So that's gonna have a big impact. Um, that puts the NOI on this property at like 100,000 or something. Yeah, that's at 106. And then let's see, maybe he's got these for all of them. Looks like it. I'm actually gonna download all these so I don't have to do this again. So this one only has one vacancy, so the actual NOI And again, we would have to go get all the financials and everything to really determine this. We're just trying to get a rough idea. All right, so that's 72,000 or 76.6, and then what's the last one? Or the second last one? So this is 11. So this one's got a bunch of vacancies too. So we're definitely going to see probably a lower cap rate than what he's showing. Yeah, so that's at 143, and he's saying total operating expenses is 122. It's going to have a pretty big impact. That puts it at 21,000 as the NOI. Not great. And then but that actually may make this portfolio even more interesting because I don't have to do if I don't have to do heavy renovations, which again, I don't know. You know, maybe the reason this thing's not, you know, isn't operating well is because it needs heavy renovations, and so therefore we, you know, maybe we wish we had a cleaner slate kind of thing. But yeah, so again, this one's at 16,135. Times 12. It's 193,000. Certainly not the 370 they're talking about. And this one's actually losing money, right? So minus 4,000. So like actual NOI is 106 plus 70. So actual NOI is 204. 204,000, which so that is going to have a really bad cap rate. It's going to be like 2%. Yeah, bad cap rate. So you know, this is an interesting one because like I'm not getting financing on this around $7 million. So maybe there's different strategy that needs to be employed for this to make sense, but certainly not going to get a $7 million price tag on something that has such a low cap rate. But there's opportunities in those kind of things as well. But that's a different conversation entirely than what we're talking about. So for now, we will, we know the price per square foot, but again, I don't have any photos of the inside of these buildings. I don't think any of those. I don't think any of those things had any indoor photos in these buildings, and that may be the issue. Is this thing needs a hefty renovation, which puts me basically in the same boat as the other property. This property is pretty interesting, I think, because this actually is a pretty nice property. It's in uh, it's in the same town, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, this is in Homa, so right down the street from those apartments. It's actually looks like a pretty nice property. I mean, it looks like they just if all the units look like this, I mean, it looks great. They had the rent rolls. I don't know if they had the financials. Here's the rent rolls. So they're saying 15,000 a month. And let's see if they have anything here. This is stabilized, but so actually it's at 180,000. Operating costs are showing 97. That's honestly probably more realistic. So 82,000 would be the NOI. See what that looks like. That's actually going to be pretty good because I think this is so 7 cap. And how many units is this? 20. And square footage is cheaper price per square foot. Price per door is basically about the same. A little bit higher, but doesn't look like there's much work that needs to be done here, so less risk. Cap rate is basically the same as their stabilized cap rate. Well, we're purchasing them straight up without the renovation. I think there's one more that I pulled. Oh yeah, this one was also in the same town. I don't think there were a ton of interior photos. Yeah, not a lot of interior photos. Or not good ones, anyways. But it is in the same town. It's, 3 units. And this is how many square feet? They're saying somewhere around this. So 60,000 a unit. They're claiming an NOI of 145, which would put this at a 10 cap. We looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this was multiple properties. And we know that none of those NOIs actually added up. Even what was in the like OM compared to the rent roll when they send it to us. So we're gonna bet that that's probably not accurate. I have reached out to all these agents trying to get details, so try to figure that out. I don't trust this as an accurate NOI. I just anything they put up here is probably not accurate, but we do know the price. We do know the rough estimate on the square foot. They don't exactly have that either, of course. We know how many units it is, so we know the price per door. So you know, definitely not like a comp that's super reliable right now, but is certainly something to look at. And then there's one more. This one is kind of near Baton Rouge. It's kind of like in between Baton Rouge and yeah. So like here's Baton Rouge, Homo's down here, Homo. That property's over here, so it's kind of in between. I mean, I just wanted to look at it. I think because they sent us over some stuff on it. Um, and it looked like a fairly decent comp. It's like kind of similar type building. I mean, they're kind of like, well, these are kind of like fourplexes almost, but they're similar in that, like kind of structure wise, condition. Um, and I just wanted to see what they sent me over a bunch of stuff. So I'll just look at it anyway. It's like more is just it just gives us more data points, more things to look at. The other thing is that the deal that you're looking at may not always be the deal that you want. You may find the deal in the research because you like the area, you like the other market research you've done, but maybe that deal is not as good as something else. You don't know until you look at everything. I don't know how many square feet this is. Does not say. Here's their rent roll. Okay. This I believe is area medium income. So they're showing like it's actually interesting that they're showing this. Like if the median income is like just above this, like 20% above this, it's not ideal for like you want to be like 3x. So whenever you're looking at a property and you're doing your market research on the area, you want to make sure that the median income is like for if you're renting it for $1,000 a unit, you want to make sure like the median income per month is 3,000 or per year is $36,000 a year. You can look at that through like citydata.com, best places, find that information and say, okay, I want to make sure that like if I'm renting at $1,500 a month and the median income there is 3,000 a month, then we're probably not in a good place because it's just not sustainable. It'll eventually settle back out. It's too high. Like rents have gotten too high. So we'll do more research on that. But if that's the case, like that's just little things. Like keep an eye out for that. If that is what that is, then like okay, well, let's go verify that because if people are average in that area only making $1,200 a month, I don't want to be charging $1,000 a month. Like you're gonna default, tenants, moving out. That may not be what it means. They may have some other thing that is, but and it doesn't really make sense. Maybe it has to do with HUD housing or something like that. Because this one's at 1,000. It's the same building, so maybe I'm wrong. Um, but okay. Anyways, all right. So I think 36,000. What was the spreadsheet? And like I don't know what day this rent rolls from. It's just like it could be any month. It doesn't match any month that's on here. But regardless, the rent roll kind of adds up to this. There's our expenses, taxes are here, cleaning and maintenance. I mean, that's never going to be zero. Um, that's never going to be zero. This is never going to be 324,000 is not realistic here. If it is actually 432, then I would say like probably like 200,000 at least. So call it 232. I mean, even if we give the benefit of the doubt, like it needs to be, it needs to be like 60% of this. Or I'm sorry, it needs to be 60%. It's like 259. We have to be. I'm sorry, this should be the NOI, but the NOI should realistically be like the best is going to be, we're at 40% OPEX. Realistically, we're going to be closer to 50. So we'll split it and we'll call it 55. So 238 is the realistic NOI. They're way off on their expenses are going to be like this amount, probably like 194,000. That's where all your repairs and maintenance come in. Insurance is that probably fine, but like just me just eyeballing this, I just know that like this is gonna be closer to half that number. So we'll call it 238. We'll see. It's still not gonna be bad at 238. That's 6.8%. I mean, it's not great in this market, but it's not terrible. And they probably have negotiating room here on this. So. I don't think we got square foot property info. Maybe here's this a different rent roll. It's the same but different numbers. Here's their sold comps. Anyways, their price per unit though was pretty high. $87,000 a unit. So how long has this been on the market for? 473 days. So this thing's basically priced like probably above the market. markets. And so this is a good thing too for us to know because the seller told us, at least in the initial messages, that the value of this property would be $8 million, at exit. And we have to be very careful that, like, you know, at $8 million, it would need to be at $80,000 a door. And if I'm looking in the market and I see a property that's priced at $87,000 a door, and it's sitting on the market for 473 days, and I see all these other properties, they're $69,000 doors, $65,000, 50, 44, 57, 60. So, like, at best, I would say this property is gonna be worth like $6 to $7 million in the exit. And I don't remember which ones of these were sitting on market for a while. And these are also in Baton Rouge. This one's been on market for 3 months. That was this one at 69,000. This one's been on market for 284 days, so almost a year. Just shy of what was that like? That's like 9 months almost. So that was priced at 65,000. So this is kind of the thing. It's like these things are sitting at 60, 65, and then these guys are selling at 49. This has just gotten on the market. I think all these just got on the market. And then this one's at 60. It's been on the market 183 days, so 6 months. It's been on the market at 60. So, and then this thing's been on the market for quite a while as well, 400 over a year. Almost going on 2 years at this point, or almost going on a year and a half. So, like, this is really critical for us to understand is that, like, they're saying that, like, this will be worth $8 million. But all the properties here, this thing, all the price per doors that we're seeing, like the ones that are above 6 million are not selling, or 60,000 per door. They're not selling. The ones below 60,000 a door, what is that Monarch one? Where'd that go? Monarch, 34 days. So that just went on the market. And it's right under 60,000. And maybe these guys know that at 60,000, these things don't sell. So they're pricing it below, and they'll probably come down if we asked. Anyways. So realistically, the resale on this deal may be, 5.5, $6 million. Well, if I'm all in at 5.5, where's the money coming from? Then I'm just stuck in a deal for cash flow. I have I'm not getting that $8 million, right? So this is how people kind of, oh yeah, it's worth $8 million, but well, the market doesn't say it's worth $8 million. The market is saying that that at most it's worth six, and at six you may be sitting on it for 6 months, moving it. You're probably going to be closer to, let's say 5.7 is the benchmark. Well, $5.7 million doesn't exactly, 2 years of work, to make a couple $100,000. It's not going to pay our investors very well. We need to be making that $3 million. So when I look at this, I'm saying, okay, if this is really the thing, this is where you can kind of figure it out. It's like, okay, realistically, maybe this thing needs to be like 2.6 million, so that by the time I'm all in at $45,000 a door, I'm turning around and I'm selling it, 57,000. Maybe I'm making, 10 grand a door on 100 doors. That's where our money comes from. Maybe it needs to even be less than that. I mean, realistically, I don't think less would be like an insane thing to ask at this point because the condition of the property. Remember, I can pick up those vacant units that potentially have no renovation. I don't know. We'll see. We're gonna find out for the same price per door. So, as where this would end up. So this is a vacant. This is a property with vacancies, and I can go get that for the same price. Like if I fully, get this thing done, like I want to be at that price. If that makes sense. Yeah. So I mean, realistically, this may be million is the right number, which I know they're not going to want to do that, but it's like I'm taking all the risks. They only renovated half the property, but they may not take that deal. So again, this is where deals go to die, is in due diligence, because I'm looking at this going, there's no way in hell I want to end up, you know, doing all these renovations and stuff with a property. I mean, this property, I don't think we had any photos. These ones we didn't have any inside photos. But this one, I mean, this one we certainly did. This one, $1.1 million at, and this is in a, it was in a pretty comparable area. And I mean, the quality of the property is, I mean, this place is pretty nice. And I can get it for 57,000. I mean, that to me is like, okay, my property is not going to be worth $8 million when this thing's done and done. That's a problem. So, what do we do with this information? I think that for me right now, I think I'm going to like chew on this for a little bit, and then I'm probably going to go back to the broker and be like, hey man, here's the facts. I can go buy identical. Well, one, I'm going to go figure out what's going on with this portfolio because I really want to dig into that. There may be something there because that thing looks distressed and like maybe the condition of the units aren't bad. We'll figure that out. But I'm probably going to go back and be like, look, you want me to be in at $36,000 a unit, but and I got $15,000 to $20,000 a unit for repairs. But I'm only going to get, I'm going to be breaking even at that point. You know, and see if there's wiggle room on the price. So like sometimes I will go in negotiating, and the reason I will do this analysis first is because even though I haven't done the rest of my checklist, I have tons of work to do on the checklist for this property. I'm not going to do any of that if right off the bat I know the price is wrong. So I'm going to figure out, like, based on this information that we just found, even though the financials, like, maybe they looked okay. You know, if you remember back, if you remember when we finished this, like we were kind of like, okay, maybe this is a 7 cap, maybe it's an 8 cap, but you know, because of the renovations and stuff, like there's debt service potentially coverage, which is good. Like we were kind of on the fence here on all this stuff, but you know, when we come back here, we're looking at this going, well, now I'm a lot less on the fence, right? And this is kind of where deals fall off. Is like, okay, they were okay, they're on the fence, they're good enough that we'll go down, you know, a little bit further down and we'll dig a little deeper. But now that we've dug, you know, one layer deeper, and we kind of skip the market itself because, like, I don't even care about the market if like the property is overpriced. So I'm trying to figure that out first. Sometimes I skip over and I do this first. And this is a perfect example of why, because now I'm coming in and I'm looking at this going, all right, $87,000 a door is not selling, $67,000 a door is not selling, 65, 69 is not selling. So you want to tell me that this thing's worth $8 million, but nothing's selling in the $8 million per door, you know, nothing is selling at $80,000 a door. It's not even selling at $65,000 a door. And so now I need to know, like, okay, what is my price at, let's say we think it's going to be worth $6 million when it's all said and done. Your price has come way down. 3.6 million doesn't work. You're telling me I got 1.4 million in repairs and I got all these carrying costs and stuff. Like, if we agree, so like sometimes I'll go in and say I think that the resale price is going to be X, Y, and Z, and if we can't get on the same page as to what we think the resale price is going to be when this thing's done on a rehab, then let's move on. Because I'm looking at I need that resale price. So like on a rehab property, I need that resale price to be, if it's at 6 million, I need to be all in at 4. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 4.5. And the reason is, and that's including carrying costs for the loan. The reason is that I need to refinance out. I'm going to underwrite always to a refi on a rehab. I'm never going to underwrite to sale. So if I think that the market's going to be at 6.5, I need to be at least 75% LTV, or I'm sorry, 6 million. I need to be at least at 75% LTV, which is going to put me at 4.5 million. all in. So like all those costs, which we said was like 2 million bucks, right? It was 30% plus 1.45, so it ended up probably being like 2 million. Yeah, so $2 million. If I need to be at 4.5 and we think this is gonna be 2 million bucks, which may be low, um, you need to be at 2.5. And that's how I'm gonna, think through the process. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna say, look, the reason I need you at 2.5 is because I need to be at $45,000 a door. Resale value is gonna be 6 million bucks, and I need to be at 75% of that. So 2.5 million. That's the deal. If they don't want to do it, then we move on. We go find another property. There's a million rehab multifamily properties out there. This is not the first. It's not the last. I don't think they're going to take 2.5 million. So I'd rather kill this deal right now. I'd rather just go back and say, here's my shoot my shot. At least then I shoot it and I'm like, hey, I'm lowballing the crap out of you at 1.1 million. That's what it feels like as a lowball. But in reality, I'm not lowballing. Like, this is just the numbers. This is the math. The math says that I need to get this at 2.5 for my side to make any money. Like, I want them to make money too. But at the end of the day, if we're not making money, nobody's making money. So, you know, I would probably come in and be like, I need this at 2.5, and here's my reasoning. And I always explain my reasoning. I just send it to the agent and say, here's my reasoning, and see what they say, and that's the and I think that's probably what we'll do next. So I'm not going to continue on and waste more time. I'm just going to go to the agent and say, hey, this is where I'm at. See what he says. If he says yes, okay, let's continue negotiations, and I'll continue my due diligence. If he says no, I'll let you know, and we'll kill this deal right here, and that's that. But I don't need to go any further. I just saved myself. We did this in an hour, and if I had gone through all my other market analysis checklists and everything else, I may have spent multiple more hours on this before we got to this. So sometimes I kind of skip over to get here fast, figure out the issue, and then just go back to the agent. Don't waste time, because there's no reason for me to. I don't need to know anything else. I know that this property can make money. I know that based on the price that they're asking, I know the rehab. I can kind of I can kind of look at their rehab budget and say this isn't like insane. So now it's like, okay, well, I need to know that we're going to be in the same ballpark before we go forward, because I can do all the work, build the financial models, do all that stuff, and it's like these guys aren't coming $1 million down on price, and it doesn't matter. None of that shit matters. So, anyways, that's it. Thank you.